Well, welcome once again. This is the Doctor Digital podcast. The purpose of the show is to transform your business and life with education and inspiration. I introduce busy business leaders to trends in business, technology, and marketing to highlight people you should know. Are you tired of throwing money at ads and tactics that don't deliver sustainable results? Do you struggle to connect with your ideal buyers and build a loyal following? Today's guest, Rai Cornell, is here to challenge your assumptions about marketing and show you a better way. As the CEO and strategic marketing consultant of Cornell Content Marketing, Rai has helped numerous B2B businesses become thought leaders by creating long term demand generation strategies that attract pre qualified, emotionally engaged buyers. Rai brings a unique combination of skills to the table, having transitioned from a career in mental health to marketing. With over a decade of experience as a freelance writer and psychologist, she has developed a psychology driven approach to marketing that sets her apart. Her elite method framework has helped businesses deeply understand their ideal buyer's psychology, building trusting demand generation systems, and transform their brand reputation for long term success. With her expertise, you'll learn how to create long term demand generation J curve with minimal spend and why relying on ads for sustainable growth is a recipe for disaster. During this episode, we'll do a deep dive into the changes and hot topics of psychological marketing, including the biggest challenges and growth. I will leverage the expertise of my guest and how to navigate the unique dynamics of the field. By the end of this episode, you'll be better equipped to know what to do, and I encourage you to contact my guest, Rai Cornell, CEO of Cornell Content Marketing. And with that, I want to welcome Rai to the program. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
You certainly bet. And it's very interesting because we want to know all about this stuff, the psychology of marketing and how you've done this. So can you tell me, how did you get into this field, or what's the story that you can tell behind this?
Yeah, so I started out on track to be a counselor in the prison system. So I got my bachelor's degree in psychology, my master's in professional clinical counseling and marriage and family therapy, and another master's in criminology. And all the while I was working in a drug rehab facility, a community counseling center, and a mental hospital, I was paying my way by being a freelance writer. And so this is just kind of my natural. Everyone has a natural thing. Everyone has a gift, whether that's painting or music or mechanics or whatever the case may be. Mine was writing. And
Right.
so I was leveraging that on the way to this career that I thought I really wanted. And don't get me wrong, I'm fascinated by psychology and human behavior and criminology, but the actual mental health world is, in my opinion, very broken. And it was at a point when I was sitting with a patient who was coming down off of meth. We're sitting in the mental hospital. I've seen him for the third time, and my supervisor is asking me to put him through the exact same protocol. I was a triage specialist at the time, so my job was intake and figuring out where people needed to go. And my response was, why? We're doing the exact same thing that apparently isn't working, and the revolving door system is so broken. So I ended up leaving my mental health profession and throwing myself full time into freelance writing and eventually developing a full service content marketing agency fueled by psychological insights.
Interesting. So over the course of time, now I'm always curious of what sort of changes have you seen, and also making this transition from your field into this. What kind of changes have taken place?
Yeah, so early in the digital era, people were consumers, buyers, people who might opt in to whatever it is that you're offering. They weren't so savvy. They thought, oh, that looks like a great thing. Let me just put my name and email address in there and I'll get it. And they end up downloading it and saving it to their desktop and never looking at it ever again. Nowadays, buyers are very savvy. They understand when content is trying to sell them, even when it is cleverly disguised, even when it looks like you're trying to present someone with this great opportunity and they only have 6 hours to press that pay now button. And, people are tired of it. And because there's so much of that out there, people are much more selective about where they put their contact information, their likes, their comments, their engagement. And you have to appreciate the customer nowadays more than I think you did in the past, where a lot of companies underestimated the intelligence of the people they were trying to connect with. And now, if you take a very respectful approach to marketing and you assume the best of your customer, not the worst, then you're going to build these long-term relationships that actually get you both where you want to be.
And so much has changed. I mean, did technology in general,
Mm-hmm.
just the world. So, can you address some of the hot topics that you would see, and what things do you think people should be aware of currently?
Absolutely. So there are two that really come to mind. One is, of course, I would be very remiss if I didn't talk about AI,
Yeah.
especially in marketing. AI seems to be this thing that people look at and go, oh, we don't have to write anything anymore. We don't have to design anything anymore. We don't have to create videos anymore. That's not the case. If you're just willy-nilly throwing prompts into an AI generator, you're going to get something that is an amalgamation of everything else that already exists. You need to make sure that not only are you using the right tools, like large language models that are really great at coming up with innovative, crazy, sometimes hallucinating new ideas and responses that you can use in a creative setting, but there has to be that filter between the AI and what it outputs to what you actually publish in your marketing. You have to have that human QA process and adaptation. Otherwise, you just end up putting out things that are devoid of emotion, because that's really what AI does. It creates these amalgamations that don't have that human touch. And I think to try to remove humans from the creative process in marketing is actually the opposite direction of where we need to go. So much of what's in the digital world is so unemotional, and yet people are craving that emotional connection. So instead, what I do with our clients and what I recommend that everybody do in their marketing is you dive deeper into the emotion. You get very clear on the pains, the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs, all that kind of stuff that makes a lot of people really uncomfortable. But that's what people are craving online, because we're so disconnected from one another, despite the fact that you can get in contact with anybody at the push of a button.
Right. So you more inside, I guess, a person's and their emotions, because that's where people generally thinking about things. But you know as well as I do, this is why the bubble gum is right next to the cash register at the
Mm-hmm.
supermarket, because like, oh yeah, because it's that emotional, like I'm going to all of a sudden do something that I've been thinking about.
Exactly.
Can you
Exactly.
talk about what would you generally recommend business owners? I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but what's the process like, and what would you do in working with a person?
First of all, slow down. So many companies are trying to work at this breakneck pace to keep up a certain volume of content production, social media posting, and just being very prolific in their content, because they think, oh, everyone else is on Facebook and X and Twitter and, well, Twitter's no more, sorry, Facebook and X and Instagram and Threads and all of these places, when really it should not be about the volume. It shouldn't be about the quantity. It really needs to be about the quality, because in our digital world, everything is so superficial. And if you're really going to stand out, the thing that's going to make you stand out is depth. And in order to create content with depth, you have to slow down and understand what the day-to-day experience of the person you're trying to connect with is really like. Because ultimately, the way to build long lasting brand loyalty, trust, and have people start coming towards you, which that's the foundation of a demand generation strategy, is you want people coming to you, is you have to put content out there that is of value. And as I said, in today's superficial everything world, the only things that are going to be perceived as of value and truly unique are those things that go way below the surface and really have a place in solving real problems that the people that you want to connect with are struggling with. So if you take that approach, you slow down and you prioritize being the problem solver, not the salesperson, not the company that needs to convert X number of clients per month or sell X number of units of product per month, but instead really focus on being the problem solver. That's what will give you that sustainable long-term strategy.
So, how is that done? It's almost like a question of how do you become more authentic? How do you become more
Yeah.
real? How do you become more human like when you are a business? And so much of our interaction is online and virtual and distance and off putting.
Yeah. So what we do is we do a workshop based on the stages of behavior change model in psychology. So there's when you're trying to ask someone to change their behavior, whether it's a habit or a substance abuse issue or whatever the case may be, and this applies directly to trying to sell someone a product or a service, you're trying to get them to change from either doing nothing or doing what they've always done to doing it your way. You're asking them to go through a very uncomfortable change process. And if you think about every single stage along that journey of change, which starts with pre-problem awareness to problem awareness to pre-contemplation to contemplation to action, that's where you can really start to dive down into being more empathetic with your ideal target and saying, okay, when they're not even aware of the problem at the very beginning of this process, what are they going through? What are the day-to-day struggles that they're facing? And this is something that's also very counterintuitive for companies. They think, oh, well, what do we want to talk about this month or next month? What products, what deals are we having? And they take this very egocentric approach to their content.
Yeah.
Whereas if instead you put your mind in the shoes of the person you want to reach and you provide content that solves the day-to-day struggles and frustrations that they deal with, even if they're very tangential to what you offer, not directly related, that's where you start to capture people and fill your pipeline for those long sales journeys so that they're thinking of you more and more and more, leading up to the point where they are ready to change. And now, all of a sudden, when they're weighing their options, you come to mind as one that they would tell their colleagues, I know this one's a little bit more expensive, but I just really like this brand. I feel like they're going to really solve this problem for us. So you can actually end up charging more and selling more, even though your competition is basing their sales pitch on price. You're going to have won the heart of that person that you're trying to get to make that decision.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's more of the directness, I guess, the authenticity, and you're looking at a bigger picture because I guess a lot of people resist change, right? So
Right, exactly.
I
Exactly.
don't want to do something because I'm losing money or I won't be happy or something like that. But what you're
Mhm.
drilling down into is some sort of deeper need that a person has and improves their life. So if I get a house, I get furniture, I get a car, it's really much more than just that object, I suppose.
Exactly. And oftentimes people know that the alternative option is better, but they don't want to go through that uncomfortable process of learning something new, switching into a different interface, or switching over the integrations within their systems, or whatever the case may be, depending on what you offer. And if you can break down those barriers by answering all of their questions ahead of the actual sale, not only do your sales team members get prospects that are 80 to 90% of the way sold, but you have someone who is ready to be an excellent customer, low maintenance, lower volume of customer support tickets submitted because they already know what the landscape looks like with you in their lives.
Can you describe the what a lot of people say is the funnel? So you come out to sort of awareness in some way, and then I do some research, and then what you're saying is they by the time they get to the bottom funnel, they've already said and solved a lot of the things in their own mind, and they're so
Yes.
ready and prepared to purchase or become a client.
Yes. Yeah. And also, another thing that's a little different about this philosophy is we really look at the sales funnel as having 5 stages, not 4. So most Marketers will look at the sales funnel as brand awareness, interest, decision, and action. Well, we also look at the fifth stage, which is retention, because it's far cheaper to keep a happy customer than it is to go out there and win a brand new one because of all of those points of resistance in changing over. So, the other part of this is if you're providing value along the way,
Mm,
that person, that decision maker gets so used to associating your brand with relief and insight and value that
mm.
they're far easier to retain. And you can continue to provide that value to them that you would to people you're trying to get across the finish line. You continue providing that value to people who you've already closed. And suddenly, you're not doing anything extra. You're not doing any additional heavy lifting, but they feel so supported and like they don't want to go anywhere else because then they're going to miss out on all of these great assets that you're providing them.
And I think that is where the deeper level, the psychology of it is. You're addressing a deeper need, right? So you have
Exactly.
a deeper need that people have, and that's for whatever it is, wish fulfillment and satisfaction,
Right.
and being feeling better about themselves, their life, and the things that they do have. So it's a deeper level that you're really addressing.
Exactly. And when you get into that empathetic state, you're addressing those feelings, those needs of, I need to feel on top of my workload. I need to feel like I'm in control of my team and our objectives. I need to feel competent. I need to feel acknowledged and appreciated by my superiors. And the solution that your company is offering helps them do that. It helps them fulfill those deeper seated needs than just whatever the functionality or features and benefits of the product actually is.
Sure, we start out with something like security, right? So, I mean, I want
Right.
to feel safe, right? So, when in a buying and purchasing process, the first thing is probably just survival, right? I want to feel
Mhm.
safe. I want to feel secure in whatever it is I'm doing, in the action I'm taking.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you go deeper with every level. It's okay, we've addressed that. But what else? And what else? And what else? I think that's a missed opportunity that a lot of companies bypass. It's they think, oh, we've already created this content for this stage of the journey. Well, you can always go deeper. And if you keep asking yourself, what else, what else, what else, that's when your entire marketing strategy is built out with super rich content that meets people at every stages of thought, feeling, and belief. And you lose fewer and fewer people out of your funnel along the way.
And it's much easier, like you pointed out, it's much easier to retain than the cost of acquisition of getting the new person to come in. So, you want to keep the people that are already close to you and keep them close to you. Could you
Exactly.
provide some actionable tips? I mean, a person is listening because this is a different approach than a lot of people are taking. So the psychological approach, could you give some
Yeah.
ideas of some practical tips of what you would suggest?
Absolutely. So, first, a lot of times when a company is putting together their ICP for marketing and sales, they're looking at what is the job title of this person. That, again, is very superficial. Instead, look at the roles and responsibilities within your ideal client profile.
Okay.
So, yes, somebody might be, let's say, the IT director. But ultimately, what is their role? Is their role managerial? Is it strategy? Are they having to keep track of budgets? Are they keeping track of project timelines? And then what are their responsibilities? Are they responsible for just their staff? Are they responsible for the functionality of the IT systems for an entire company that has one location, multiple locations?
Mhm.
Really dive into the roles and responsibilities of that person because that's when you can start tapping into a limitless well of ideas for content. And if you can start solving each of those problems and tying it directly to how your company takes a problem solution perspective on that particular issue. I think that's really the key takeaway here is don't discount the granularity of the insights that you gain in being empathetic towards the person you're trying to connect with. Create a single piece of content, whether that's blog content, landing pages, an ebook or white paper, a video. Create all of those for each individual insight. And that's really where you're going to start tapping into things that your competitors have never even thought of.
Yeah, it certainly is a deeper level because the psychological is really what motivates a lot of people. And I
Right.
think you're right in saying people would say if you go for the title CEO, president, but then you find in a lot of organizations, there's other people that really are making decisions, and
Mm-hmm.
the person at the top is often overwhelmed and they've already delegated, but you might not know that unless you approach them.
Right. And some of those titles like CEO, COO, CFO, they are so, I don't want to say generic, but they're so commonplace within larger companies that we end up going, oh, okay, I know the target is the CEO or CFO, but that's not enough. So what? We need to know what motivates them. How are they basing their decisions? Is their business in a growth state right now? Are they in a, maybe they've just gone through a few acquisitions and they are in a stabilizing state? Maybe they're going through the growing pains of having to incorporate three different companies and three different ways of doing things and three different teams that have been working in isolation into a harmonious unit. How can you solve those interpersonal pain points? How can you solve the things that that person goes home and complains to their spouse about?
So we talked about changes, hot topics, and some actionable tips and a unique approach here. So I'm wondering now if a person's heard you, how do they reach out to you and how they get a hold of you if they're interested in pursuing?
Absolutely. So if you want to learn more about this psychological take on content marketing, you can check us out at cornellcontentmarketing.com. And we also have an upcoming resource that will actually help you go through this brainstorming process, specifically with the psychological stages of change. And you can get that at cornellcontentmarketing/demand gen.
Awesome. Really helpful, and it's a really unique approach. So I appreciate your time and your expertise and what you're able to share with us today. Thank you for being a part of the podcast.
Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. I love nerding out on this stuff.
A lot of people do, and a lot of people will learn from it. So I appreciate it very much.
Likewise, thank you.
You bet. Thank you so much. So, if you like what you're hearing, and certainly I hope that you do, make sure that you are subscribing, positively reviewing, sharing on social media. I also want to thank the supporters of the podcast, the publishers of both Burning America and On Track, Ian Hunter, for their ongoing assistance. If you enjoy the podcast, subscribe, share on social media, and positively review. Tell everyone. And if you want to know more about my background as well, too, and how it can assist you, I help business leaders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs break through their obscurity through written presentations, building credibility and authority. I'm the Idea to Author Coach on Facebook. So if you have an idea, let's chat about it. Maybe you have a book that's coming, because I can certainly help with those as well. So hopefully you enjoyed the episode. More things to come. Thanks for being a guest. I know you have a lot of choices, and a listener. Till next time, Deus Vult.